Okay, so it's been a little while since you've maybe read Lord of the Flies, so we're just going to do a quick recap from chapters 1 to 4. So before we begin, a little bit about William Golding, again in case you forget. He was born in England, he is British, he went to an all-boys boarding school, so he's probably seen a lot of bullying in school. He even said that he was a bully himself. And then he became a teacher, so he saw even more bullying. And then he joined the Navy and fought in World War II, particularly D-Day, which is one of the biggest battles from World War II. So this has obviously affected his writing. In fact, he read The Coral Island, a book about 3 civil British boys living on an island, and went, that wouldn't happen. I've just seen loads of people fighting in World War II. He said, World War II was a turning point for me. I began to see what people were capable of doing. Anyone who moved through those years without understanding that man produces evil as a bee produces honey must have been blind or wrong in his head. So there we go. So themes in Lord of the Flies, the weak and the strong we see everywhere, whether it's the big uns bullying the little uns, then bullying Piggy, Ralph bullying him, or Jack bullying him. We see civilization and civility when they have meetings, they use the conch, they have assemblies, they have order. We see human nature. What is human nature? Are we good, but sometimes do bad things, or are we bad, but society keeps us good? Spirituality, we see a lot of this through Simon in chapters 1 to 4. We see a different side of spirituality and religion in later chapters. And finally, savagery, as the boys become more savage and evil. And then major symbols, Piggy's glasses symbolise seeing things clearly, intelligence. The conch symbolises order. The mask, Jack's mask, symbolises, savagery and human nature, and the fact that the mask he puts on is his real personality. That's the real human nature, the savage behaviour. Then we've got the beast, which we haven't really seen a lot of yet. We just talked about it. And the fire on the top of the mountain, symbolising hope. The smoke, symbolising hope. So chapter 1, the sound of the shell. It begins, the setting of the story is World War III. Not World War II, it's World War III, so it's fictional, it's not happened, obviously. And the boys are evacuated from England because of an atom bomb, a nuclear bomb. So they're put on a plane, and that plane gets shot down, they land on an island. The plane creates a scar in the island, it damages the island, and then gets dragged back out to sea, and the pilot dies. So it's just the boys. There's a group of kids, some of them are 16, some of them are 12, 13. Some of them are only 6 years old. They're the little ones. Okay, so we start the story. First, we're introduced to Ralph, the boy with the fair hair. He's the protagonist. He is the good guy, but he's definitely not perfect. He's still a bit of a bully. Perhaps why his hair is fair. It's in the middle. It's equal parts good, equal parts bad. And yeah, he represents our whole self, the good and the bad, the ego. And he meets Piggy. Piggy's this fat kid with glasses, really clumsy, but he's smart. He is the smart one. However, he's physically weak despite being intellectually strong. He has asthma, which Ralph calls arsma, and he needs glasses. He represents the superego. And they come across this shell, the conch. Piggy immediately knows what it is. Piggy's shown by being smart, and his symbol is developed by the fact that his glasses flash, kind of like a light bulb going off, but also a bit like a bomb. So his glasses flash, and he's like, oh, that's a conch. I know what it is. He also says, I know this is an island. I know we're stuck here. I know everyone's dead and we're not being saved immediately. So he has this level of clarity and awareness which Ralph doesn't have. Then they're on the beach and they blow the conch, which calls other boys to where they are to have an assembly. And you get the little ones come up, and then eventually Jack comes in his group of choir boys. They all know each other. They're a choir that travel together. And Jack actually says this, I should be the leader because I'm the only one who can sing a certain note. Like that's a big deal or whatever. But he is the antagonist of the novel. He's the leader of hunters and he is obsessed with killing. He represents the id, our animal nature, our baser, animalistic side. The fact that all humans are still animals really, and Golding thought that it was just society that kept us good. You remove that and we become like animals. So that's what Jack represents. So they're on the island and Ralph and Jack say, let's go and explore. So Ralph, Jack and Simon go and explore. Piggy wants to come, but they leave him behind. They don't want him there, weak and strong there. So they go look around the island. They find a pig run where pigs are. Immediately, Jack's like, all right, sweet, I'm going to hunt a pig. I'm going to stick its throat. I'm going to slit its throat. I'm going to stick it. I'm going to kill a pig. And they go to the top of the mountain and they observe it is an island. And they decide that they should have a fire eventually to get rescued. So they go back to the other group. And that's where chapter 2 starts, Fire on the Mountain. So in this chapter, Ralph calls another meeting with the conch, and he says to the groups, you know, we are the only ones on an island. There's no adults here, and they decide to call the 6-year-olds little uns, and then they vote on who's going to be a leader. Ralph becomes the leader. He's called the chief. You know, if anyone knows, a chief has connotations with tribal chiefs. So even despite the fact that they voted and they have this order and the civility, the fact they call him a chief is still kind of savage. And then because of that, Jack immediately, he's angry. He wanted to be the leader. So Ralph says, okay, fine, I'm the leader, but you can be the leader of the hunters. So he says that to Jack, you can be the leader of the hunters. Then when they're there, they've had this meeting, they've decided who's who. There's a little kid with a birthmark on his face, mulberry birthmark on his face. He's like, I've seen a beast. This isn't a good island. Everyone keeps saying this is a good island. He's like, no, it's not a good island. It's not the Coral Island. I've seen a beast. Now everyone just assumes he's talking about the creepers, which are just vines. Golding uses lots of imagery, symbols, metaphors and similes to describe the island in a very negative way. So the skull-like coconuts, the trees fall out before they get to a certain age, mirroring the children. And they use the word creepers instead of vines to show that it's a dangerous island. So the kid thinks there's a beast, a snake thingy, a beastie. So Jack's like, right, I'm going to go kill the beast if there is one. That's what I'm going to do. And then they decide they need to go have a fire. So they go to the top of the mountain to make a signal fire. They need Piggy's glasses to use it. Now, as I said, Piggy's glasses symbolise clarity, intelligence, and all that stuff. But the boys use it for destruction, for fire, which reminds me of the atom bomb. You know, this is something in World War II, something Golding was familiar with. This atom bomb made of hydrogen, which could have powered cities, could have been a scientific breakthrough, and instead was used for destruction. Similar to Piggy's glasses, you know, they're supposed to symbolise intelligence, but instead they're used to make a fire by the other guys. This is interesting, perhaps why they're called, like why they always say his glasses flashed, or his flashing glasses, similar to an atom bomb flashing. Anyway, they make a fire on the top, and the boys get carried away. They start putting too much stuff on the island. They get carried away, and the fire gets out of control. Crep, like a jaguar, creeps towards a line of birch-like saplings. Again, lots of imagery, similes, and metaphors to describe the fire in a really scary way, like a predator attacking its prey. The saplings, which mirror the children. And Piggy's like, it's like a bunch of kids. He doesn't like, he thinks the kids are being silly, they're being immature, and it's ironic because they are actually a bunch of kids. And then Jack's like, well, the conch doesn't count on top of the island, so you shut up. Jack is already not liking the order and civilization. He wants to do his own thing. Piggy's a bit more mature, and Jack is obviously kind of violent and wants to do his own thing. Oh, and then the fire goes out of control. At the end of it, they can't find the little boy, so he is dead, presumably. Then we move on to chapter 3, Huts on the Beach. So this starts, Ralph and Simon are building huts. The first one, everyone helped. Second one, less people helped. And by the third one, it was just Ralph and Simon. Now, Siphon is timid, kind, and wise. He doesn't want to kill. He represents holiness, our pure versions of ourselves. He's innately good. So if we think of Golding not really knowing what is human nature, well, Simon could be good in all of us. And in the meantime, Jack is hunting. He's getting much better at hunting, and he's off trying to do that. He's still not killed anything yet, but he's trying to do that still, while the boys are building a hut. So eventually, like, Jack comes back, and Ralph is getting really angry. He's like, me and Simon are building huts. We're taking care of the huts. The people are supposed to be looking after the fire, and they're not. Jack's like, well, I'm trying to get a pig. So there's already this divide now. One of the Simon and Ralph and Piggy think this is what's important. Jack and the hunters, the more violent boys, they think hunting is important. They think killing is important. So this is the beginning of the divide. What was I going to say here? Okay, so in the island, Jack is like, oh, I think the beast. They have a vote on the bee sting, and he's like, I'm not sure if the bee sting is real. I sometimes get a feeling for it. And then that's really the end of that bit between Jack. The subject that comes up, the little one's all really frightened. He says, I feel like I'm not hunting, but being hunted, as though something is behind you all the time in the jungle. Then the two boys begin to dislike each other in the bathing pool, and they have an argument. Because of this, Simon just walks away. Now, there's loads of religious imagery here. Simon walks away. The creepers shivered when he touched them. The butterflies come out. The candlebud flowers come out for him as well. Jack slashed at these flowers in chapter 1, but for Simon they come out. And he gives fruit to the little ones, much like Jesus giving fruit. So there's lots of religious imagery here. And he goes off and he meditates, and he's a very spiritual character. And we come on to chapter 4. So this begins with 3 of the little ones, Johnny, Henry and Percival. They're building sandcastles. They decorate them, they put flowers on them, they build little train tracks. So this is representing civilization. In fact, that day Henry is the leader because he's the biggest. Eventually, Roger and Maurice. Roger's really evil. Eventually he starts torturing people. He's really evil. He comes in and he kicks down the sandcastles. Maurice does the same, and he kicks down at the boys. And all the boys go off crying. Then Henry goes into the water's edge and he starts playing with these little tiny transparent fish. So he's exercising his control over them. There's power. He has power over the other little ones because he's biggest. He has power over the little creatures. But Roger and Maurice have power over them because they're big. And then Roger starts throwing stones at him, but he does it deliberately to miss. He's still conditioned by society. He still feels as though he's kind of doing a bad thing and he might get in trouble. So he does it, but to miss. But it shows his intentions that he wants to do it. Then we go to Roger goes and finds Jack. Jack's making a face. He's making a mask made of clay and berries and charcoal and other kind of stuff. The mask itself is mostly black. He slashed charcoal across it. It's mostly black, which might symbolise evil. There's bits of red, which could symbolise blood. And they cover the innocents up. They white, and he puts more charcoal across it. He covers the white innocents up. He sees an awesome stranger, and his breathing troubled the mirror, and his laughter became a bloodthirsty snarling. So there's lots of imagery there. But what's important is it says he's liberated from shame and self-consciousness. So if we go back to the big question, are we good but do bad things? Or are we bad but society keeps us good? You know, is the mask Jack's true self? Usually Halloween we put a mask on to pretend to be someone else. But maybe Jack pretends in society to be a good person, but the reality is Jack's evil and the mask liberates him and he's able to be his real self. He's able to act like the way he wants to act. And then when all this is happening, Ralph and Simon see a ship on the edge of the water. And Ralph, Maurice, Simon, Piggy, they see a ship on the edge of the water and they're like, oh no, the fire looks like it's out. How are we going to be safe? So they run up to the top of the mountain and they see the fire is out. Roger and Maurice were supposed to be taking care of it, but they didn't. So they've lost their chance of being saved, but it's okay. So that's the loss of hope there. If the fire symbolises hope, it's a loss of hope. But it's all right because Jack comes back. Jack's killed a pig. That's all he cares about. So I've killed a pig. You should be grateful. And this is where we see the real divide now. So Piggy's obviously upset. None of them seem to care. So none of the hunters care. They're like, we've got a pig, we've got food. Ralph's like, yeah, but that's not important. Being saved is more important than finding the pig. Piggy's blowing the conch and he's really angry and he's like, you know, it's not fair. You guys should have been doing us. Now we've not been saved. So Jack punches him and his glasses break. Piggy now doesn't see as clearly as he did before. They show how they feel about intelligence and seeing things clearly. The boys do not care for it. They like this descent into savagery and they don't need Piggy's glasses and Piggy's intelligence. apart from building the fire, obviously. So then they start giving out food. Jack doesn't apologise, but he starts giving. He gives a really basic apology. He doesn't really mean, so Ralph's still really angry with him. But they start giving out food. He gives food to Ralph. He gives food to Simon, but he doesn't give food to Piggy. Instead, Simon gives his food to Piggy. Simon's a really, really good character. And then that's where we leave off. So that's chapters 1 to 4 before we begin chapter 5.